Hey
Hey,
Heather,
Mike. Hey, Mike. How are you?
finding yourself?
Doing good, thanks. What's new with you?
Not too much. It's just been 2 weeks since the last show. I went down to the LA area to visit my mom, and pretty quiet 2 weeks.
That sounds fun. Did you
Yep.
get to go to the beach or anything?
I did. I like to go to a part of Long Beach. So one day I went stand-up paddleboarding, and for that I like to go to a place called Mother's Beach, which is a very quiet beach, and the waves are really small, and it's easy, and there's parking, which is a big issue, and that's good. So I make a big circle there around Naples Island. And the other day I went to you know more of like the open ocean, and there I went kayaking on my stand-up paddleboard, and
Oh,
that worked out surprisingly well. I had never done that before. I actually keep a true kayak at my mother's house, but there was nobody else around to help me carry it, and I didn't want to ask my 87-year-old mother to help carry a heavy kayak. So yeah, so again, it worked out really well kayaking on a stand-up paddleboard, and I used the paddle from the kayak. So I'll probably continue to do that when I go out there. And I went kayaking amongst all the cruise ships and container ships that are just sitting there parked offshore. There's in the hundreds of container ships parked just offshore, up and down the coast of the LA area, waiting to unload. So it's
you
fun to
say
get right up close to them.
you say container ship. The first thing I think of is a container ship home. Would you ever live in a tiny home? Have you seen that?
I stayed in one when I went to um, Leadville, Colorado last year, and
Oh, cool.
that was fun to stay in. I could see having one as maybe a small vacation home,
Mhm.
but it would be hard to get me to live in one because I have so much stuff that,
Yeah,
yeah,
good
I
point.
couldn't see one being a primary residence.
Good point. So, do we have any trivia for today, or are we just going to get straight into the questions?
Well, I did. Somebody last week asked about my puzzle collection, and so I wanted to share that with the audience.
Ooh,
So,
okay, let's get you.
okay, so I'm just picking these out randomly from a bin. So this is called a Pyraminx, and it's much like a Rubik's Cube, but it is instead in the shape of a tetrahedron. Next, I have a whole bunch of Rubik's Cubes of different sizes. So this is a 4x4, and it's also called the Rubik's Revenge. And any Rubik's Cube that has an even number of cubies, as they're called, on an edge are harder because, well, for one thing, there are no centers. You have to be careful to put the centers in the right configuration. But even if you don't do that, then it will be unsolvable. But even if you do that, you can run into some parity problems that will require long sequences of moves to fix. So personally, I like the cubes with the even number of cubies. So what do we got here? So here is a 5x5 Rubik's Cube. So I prefer this very much to the 4x4 because it doesn't require as much memorization. Okay, what do we got next? There's so many, I'm going through kind of fast. So this is called a Gearball. And it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube, but you have to worry about getting these edge pieces oriented correctly, and it's pretty difficult. To be honest, this is not one of my favorite puzzles, but it's a worthy addition to the collection. And here we have a simple 2x2 Rubik's Cube, and this one is this is what's called a shapeshifter puzzle, because I can turn, so it's in the solved position now, but I can turn it and maybe turn it again, and now it's no longer a cube. And so you're restricted to only being able to move it from certain configurations. So, and this one also has a problem with like this piece here that's half yellow and half blue. If that gets flipped around, you will need to reverse it. And this is not a problem with the Rubik's Cube because the orientation of the cubes does not matter with the Rubik's Cube. But with a puzzle like this, it does. So it requires more work to solve. Okay, this is another, I don't remember what this one is called. But this one I recall being not so difficult. I don't remember how to solve it. In fact, I don't remember how to solve any of these except for the Rubik's Cube and the Megaminx, which we'll get to later. So this is a Rubik's Cube, but it's not, but it's this, the sides are curved. Some people like that because it kind of fits in your hand a little bit more comfortably. I don't even know. This is not really a puzzle. This is kind of something you can fidget with. Okay, this is called, I believe, a barrel cube. This one is pretty easy. It only has 5 colors instead of 6. Just trust me, it's kind of like a simplified Rubik's Cube. And okay, this is forgive the terrible paint job on this. This one, okay, here is a great money-making idea out there, YouTube. I'm too lazy to follow through with this. But with a lot of these puzzles, especially the big ones, the stickers fall out. I mean, every little piece is small, and every little sticker is small, and they fall off. And like, look at these blues here. These little pointy ones, these very scalene triangles, they fall off. And somebody please make really good quality stickers. And I've asked about this in hardware stores, and they looked at me like I was from Mars. So I have tried using nail polish to color the sides, and that actually has worked out pretty well, but you can kind of see how ugly this orange side that I colored is. And it's time consuming. You know, you get the paint in the cracks, and you know, I've been meaning to finish this. I have the paint, I have the nail polish, but this is time consuming and it's ugly. So what you want is sheets of good quality stickers that you can cut and that are in at least 12 different colors. And you might say, Mike, you know, how many geeks are there on the planet that would buy this? And I think that it's a decent number. The cubing community is bigger than you might think. I don't want to throw out a number out there, but there's lots of websites about it, lots of YouTube videos, including by me, on how to solve these obscure puzzles. So there you go. There is your business making, there is your business idea, anyone, if you're looking for one. Okay.
I love that. So I got a quick question. Have you tried acrylic? The acrylic paint?
Well, the nail polish is acrylic. Oh, like acrylic paint?
Yeah, or what you could do is you could go to Michael's and get a sticker, like a big old sticker with one color, and then just cut that sticker into this shape that you need and then use that sticker on there.
I don't think that sticker is going to be sticky enough.
Yeah. Glue? Crafting glue? Crafting glue.
I really don't think that messing with glue is going to be a good solution because it's going to be a mess, and the glue can get into the cracks and slow down the cube, and it's time consuming. And no, the cubing community needs good quality stickers, and you know, what can I say? I gave you guys a great business idea on a silver platter. Why don't you do it? It's because I'm too lazy, and fortunately I'm in a position where I'm not kind of in need of a business opportunity like that. So anyway, let me move on. I've got so many of these. Okay, what is this called? You know, I don't know, but I don't remember what this is called. But there's a bunch of cubes there's a bunch of puzzles that are not cubes, but like this one is 2 by 2 by 3. And I like these. They're nice and simple. And you can use the same kind of logic from the Rubik's Cube to solve it. Okay, so last week somebody asked about the ghost cube. So this is a ghost cube, and let me get 2 of them. So the ghost cube is it's called a shapeshifter puzzle. And once you start scrambling it up, it starts to look like this. And you have to be careful about aligning things to even be able to turn it at all. So these are difficult, and especially with this one where everything is the same color, it's difficult to find the piece that you need. And so the way I did it is I got 2 ghost cubes. So I could see what it looks like in the solved position. And so let's say that, you know, I could see that one piece, I wanted to make one piece next to another piece. I could use this cube to try to easily see what piece is supposed to go next to it. And it's not going to be so obvious if you only have one puzzle. Now, another, I don't want to say problem, but another challenging element of the ghost cube is that there are 2 pieces that are exactly the same. And if you put the wrong one when you get to the stage in the position, basically if you mix them up, you will not realize it until you're close to the solution. And you will get into a situation where it's impossible to solve. So you will have to go back and swap them out. And when you swap them out, you will ruin a lot of progress that you've made. And it's like going from step 10 to step 5. And then you can go, and then you can keep advancing. So if you want something that's kind of maddening and time consuming, I really like the ghost cube. It is, yeah, but once I solved this, I might have solved it like 2 or 3 more times and said, you know, I'm done with that one. It's just too time consuming and kind of maddening. But before I solved it, I was kind of in a crazed state trying to solve this thing. Okay. I don't know what this one is called, but this is another shapeshifter puzzle where it can take on all kinds of different shapes depending upon how you turn it. And this one I have never solved. This one is really hard. And I've looked at YouTube videos on this and it helped a little bit, but it is complicated. And by the time I got to this one, I was starting to kind of come out of my puzzle phase and I just gave up on it. Okay, what else can I show you here? Now this is a small version of the Pyraminx, and this one is actually harder than the bigger one. Where did I put the bigger one? Okay, so here's the 2 by 2 and a 3 by 3 right next to each other. This one is actually harder because you cannot turn just the tips by itself like you can here. Notice how I can turn the tips. So because you can't turn those tips, it makes it much more difficult. So this is another really good puzzle. It's a really good challenge. So I really like this one a lot. It's not going to impress people as much because it looks so small and simple, but trust me, it's difficult. Okay, what else do we got here? Here we got the Pyraminx. I mean the Megaminx. I really like this one. You can use the same kind of logic that you use for the Rubik's Cube to solve this one right here, which you can see is in the form of a dodecahedron. So yeah, if you've solved the Rubik's Cube and you want your next puzzle, your second one to move on to, I really recommend this one. So it's kind of like the Rubik's Cube, but it just takes more time to solve, but it's the same kind of logic and procedures that you use. So it doesn't require any additional memorization. Okay, moving right along here. What was this one? This one is, while it looks like a tetrahedron, I think that this one has more Rubik's Cube kind of logic to it, and I don't remember what it's called. I haven't solved this one in years, so, but I recall it being kind of on the easy side. Okay, this one here is another one that may look like a Rubik's Cube, but it's another shapeshifter puzzle. Like if I turn this here, now it kind of looks like a house. And if I keep turning it, it's going to look like a real mess. And this is another puzzle where in the Rubik's Cube, I said before, the orientation of the cubies don't matter. But with this one, like look at this edge piece here that's half green and half orange. That has to be right. If that gets flipped 180 degrees, it's not going to be solved. So you need to learn some extra routines to solve these orientation problems. Okay, what's next? Okay, this is another one that's kind of like the Rubik's Cube, but you can see it's all the same color. So you have to go off the shape sizes to solve the thing. So the logic of it is much like the Ghost Cube, but trust me, this one is much easier because you don't get into these situations where the shape is so mixed up. You have to make an effort to just turn the thing. No, this one is about equally as difficult as the Rubik's Cube. Maybe it's a little bit harder just because it's all the same color, but the logic of it is essentially the same. And what else do we got here? Okay, here's a big old Rubik's Cube. This is an 11 by 11 by 11. And where's my 5 by 5? With the odd numbers, once you can do the 5 by 5, you can do any size as long as it's an odd number. It just requires a lot more time and effort. So what else do we got here? And you may have been impressed by that 11 by 11, but look at this one. This is a 13 by 13 Rubik's Cube. And notice how a lot of the stickers have come off, especially in the middle. And a lot of them are kind of sliding around. It's because when I bought this, they kindly gave me sheets of extra stickers. But the problem is the stickers are not sticky enough. So again, that's a common problem with so many of these puzzles. And by the way, when you go to a cubing forum, everyone complains about this and you hear all kinds of different solutions. But I'm telling you, someone that produces good quality stickers that aren't so thick that you can't cut them is going to do really well. All right, what else do I got here? This is the Ivy Cube. This one is it's a pretty simple one. Haven't solved it in a long time, but trust me, it's on the easy side when it comes to these puzzles. And here's another, I think it's called a Floppy Cube. Where's my notes? Yeah, it is a Floppy Cube. So this one is another really easy one. If you're looking for something simple, you can solve this, without needing any help, like for a book or a website. And okay, I have plenty more here, but a lot of them are duplicates. Okay, so here's another one. This one is called the Dino Cube. And, it is what it is. I don't remember how to solve it, but I do recall it being kind of on the easy side. And finally, a lot of people like to get me these, what should I call them? Picture cubes, that's the right term. It's a Rubik's Cube that has pictures of some place, like a lot of times, like if you go to, I don't know, Seattle or something, they will have like pictures of places from Seattle on the sides. But notice how like this side has trees. To be solved, they must all be facing the same way. And this adds an additional layer of complexity to the puzzle, because with the Rubik's Cube, again, the orientation does not matter. But with this cube, it does. So it makes it more complicated. And one thing I don't like about these picture cubes is they're never good quality. They're always hard to turn. So I would really like to have a good quality picture cube. As far as I know, I have never seen one. But so there's another business idea. Maybe somebody else is already doing that. But yeah, and I wanted to also, I still have a whole bunch more in my bin here, but they look like they're all duplicates. So this is my favorite Rubik's Cube. This is called a magnetic cube. And so it uses magnets to, how shall I put it? To kind of keep the cube in place. It doesn't only use magnets, but this turns really easily. Not too easily. It's just the right degree of friction. So all the speed cubers will use magnetic cubes like this. So once you get one, it's really difficult to go back to a conventional Rubik's Cube because these turn so nice and easily. And I think that people should make more magnetic cubes for some of the other puzzles. And there's another business idea for you. But trust me, the best business idea was the stickers. So thank you. I know that took a long time, but thank you for watching my collection of Rubik's Cube types of puzzles.
Jim says, I never knew there was a cubing community. That sounds sort of dirty.
It's going to be the cleanest community you've ever met. Really nice people. Of course, it's like 99% men. So yeah, they have competitions, you know, for all kinds of things, not just the Rubik's Cube, but they have time tournaments for a whole bunch of these different types of puzzles. And it's really remarkable. Like, the kids these days can have an average time of the Rubik's Cube of about 15 seconds. And you might say, Mike, how can they do that? It's because, in fact, let me get the book.
There's a book. Oh, wow. Okay, while he gets the book, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for coming in here. If you guys have a question, please put it in the live chat and we will get through questions here pretty shortly. So welcome to AMA, Ask Michael Anything.
Okay, I'm sorry. Off the top of my head, I can't find the book. But there is a whole book that when you get to the last layer of this, there's like 150 different ways this last layer can be, and it tells you directly how to solve each one of them. So you have to memorize the sequence of moves for all of these possible combinations. And it greatly cuts down on the number of moves needed to solve the puzzle. The way I do it, there are just 4 routines that you need to memorize, but you need to do them lots of times. So it makes the solve slower. But yeah, trust me, there's a lot of people that are very into it. And, you know, when I was in high school, that's when the Rubik's Cube came out, and it was a huge fad. And I, of course, got really into it. I claim to be the fastest solver of the Rubik's Cube in my high school. There was never a formal tournament, but I knew the other cubers, and none of them could touch my speed. I could solve the Rubik's Cube with my feet. So this is just, you know.
With your feet? Wait, what?
Yeah, I could solve the Rubik's Cube with my feet when I was in high school.
Okay. As an adult, can you hold and move the Rubik's Cube with your feet?
I could not hold it and move it. I had to put it on the ground, and with one foot I held it in place, and with the other foot I turned one of the edges. So it took me a long time. It took me about 20 minutes to solve it with her.
I was really looking forward to seeing that.
And not that anyone asked, but you might say, Mike, you know what got you on this kick? So when I went to Europe, I guess about 5 years ago, there was a store near my hotel in Barcelona that had half the store was devoted to these puzzles. And I was like a kid in a candy store. I was just amazed. Like, I didn't even know that all these other puzzles existed. So I bought several of them, went back to my hotel, had a great time trying to solve them. But then I thought, you know, this is so great that I need to go back. And I kept going back to the store probably like 4 times and bought more each time. So I went home with a whole bunch of these puzzles in my suitcase. And then I got home and I went online and found out there's even more that I needed. So I went on this crazy cubing kick, and I solved all the puzzles you see I have solved.
That's amazing.
This one right here.
Wow, that's really
there you
amazing.
Go. All right, we have spent a lot of time on this topic, but let's get to some gambling questions, and I do have some from the forum too.
Sounds good. So our very first question of the day comes from Yes Notes, who says, "Hi, Mike. There are now many variable state slot machines like Ocean Magic at Sky City Casino in Auckland, which I find fun and profitable. Has Vegas been adding more variable state slot machines as well?"
Yeah, they're very popular here. I would say about one slot machine in maybe about 1 in 5 is a variable state slot machine. So yeah, they are indeed popular here. And I've said this before, but slot machines are a hot area in advantage play right now. And you have to know these variable state slot machines when they are in a positive state, and how to detect that, and then how to know when to get out of that state. And this is going to be different information for each game. I've already written about Ocean Magic and Golden Egypt, and I've been vilified by players that already knew about these plays. So I'm kind of in a moral quandary whether to write about this more. But trust me, for the type of advantage player that likes to have a number of tricks in his bag of tricks, I would definitely look into this, especially if you're in a non-competitive market. Vegas is not a good place to do this because it's very competitive with other slot vultures. But if you live in, say, Washington or New Mexico, where there's just scattered casinos, it can be a very good thing because they don't get there's not as much competition from other slot vultures. And I think the caliber of the play from the recreational gamblers is not as good, and they're more likely to leave the games in a positive state.
Okay. Good to know.
Yep.
Our next question comes from Lazarus. I hope I pronounced that right. Can you please make a tutorial for Russian poker?
That is a big request there, Lazarus. Russian poker is, in my opinion, the most complicated casino game. I believe this is the only game that was so complicated that I just said, I'm not analyzing this one. Even if I wrote a program to do it, it would take thousands of years to cycle through all the combinations. So I refer people to Grosjean's book, which costs about $2,000, but he does have some information on Russian poker in that. And but there's no place around here that I know of that has Russian poker. I believe it's either the Pachanga or the Barona in San Diego. I have heard has a table. I don't know if they still do. But to be honest, I don't really want to go through a great deal of work to write about a game that is so difficult to find here in the US. So I'm afraid, so the short answer there is, sorry, I respect the request, but but in weighing the pros and the cons, the costs and the benefits of doing an analysis, I just can't justify it.
Okay. Our next question comes from TSW. Why do some of the 4 times raise hands in Ultimate Texas Hold'em strategy have a negative EV, like 5K unsuited EV negative 0.117582?
That's another good question. I indeed say that if you get King 5 offsuit in Ultimate Texas Hold'em, you should make the big 4X raise. And trust me, the dealer and the other players will tell you you're an idiot, but trust me, it's the right play. Now, why is it the right play if it's a money-losing play? It's kind of like splitting 8s in Blackjack. While it may be a money-losing play, if you do the alternative, you'll lose even more. So, so skeptics of mine say that was splitting 8s against, say, a 10 in blackjack, they'll say, why would you throw down more money on the table on a lousy hand? Because if you split, you can expect to lose about something like 42% of your original wager. But if you hit that or stand on it, you can expect to lose about 47%. So would you rather lose 42% or 47%? Much like King 5 offsuit and Ultimate Texas Hold'em, you can choose to lose a little bit or a lot. Yeah, I'd rather lose a little bit.
That makes sense. Our next question comes from Eric. How much coin in on video poker do casinos like South Point want to get comped rooms? Also, what casinos are most generous for video poker players?
I don't play much at the South Point, but they're in general a really generous casino, and they set their video poker really loosely. However, everybody knows in the casino business that video poker is not that profitable. So you're probably going to be needing to run through in the tens of thousands of dollars. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't really know what their room availability is like, but the word in advantage player communities is that they're really quite generous. So I think that if you force me to say something specific, I think that if you were, say, a quarter player, I think that if you were to play for, I don't know, say 4 hours, you might start to get free room offers and a dollar player, maybe just 2 hours, something like that.
Okay.
It never hurts to just put in some play and see what comes of it.
Always good advice.
Thanks.
And our next question is from Paul. Any thoughts on gambling revenues referred to as fish game arcades found in states like North Carolina and Florida?
Nope. I'm not even sure what a fish game arcades are, but I'm going to write this down and I'm going to look into it after the show. Okay.
Any thoughts on gambling venues referred to as fish game arcades found in states like North Carolina and Florida?
Yep, I got it.
Cool. Now he has another question.
Okay.
So Paul says, if you see the last blackjack player at the table get chastised for playing wrong, will you back them? Will you back up the bullied player?
It kind of depends on the dynamics at the table, but I probably will. If the player who made the right play seems like a nice person and the other person seems like a bully, even though in general I mind my own business at the table, I will probably say something like, he did the right thing. And I'm not going to get into a big speech about why, but yeah, I believe in standing up for the truth, and I probably will back him up.
Okay.
But I'm not going to get into a big argument about it. If the bully doesn't want to believe me, fine. You know, I actually probably don't want him to believe me. I probably would prefer that he lose more. But then again, I'm all in favor of putting truthful information out there, and what the world does with it is their business.
Cool. And Pete says, always love hearing Mike's adventure stories. So we had to get that comment in there.
Oh, well, thanks. Sorry I didn't have a good one this time.
You had a lot of puzzles. That was really interesting.
Oh, yep. Thank you.
So Johnny says, I played 3-card poker a lot. Can I make money, or should I play blackjack? And is the basic strategy chart the best way to play?
Okay, first of all, yes, the basic strategy chart is the best way to play. 3-card poker is not such a good value given the choice between the two. I would definitely pick blackjack. The house advantage in 3-card poker on the ante, as I recall, is about 2.3%. And in blackjack, you can get that down easily to under 1%. So you'll lose a lot less money playing blackjack than 3-card poker.
Okay.
So that's my quick answer to that one.
Love it. Okay, so our next question is from something I'm going to mispronounce. Is it a bad idea to count cards? Because when you lose a few big hands, you have to wait a long time for the next big positive shoe, whereas a degenerate can just keep on betting big and lose at the house edge.
Well, there's no big secret that card counting is a roller coaster, and much of the volatility is in a small number of big bets that you make. So yes, indeed, when you lose a big bet, in theory, it's going to take a long time to recoup that. But it's not like you're going to just slowly recoup it. You could recoup it on your very next hand. But yeah, it's a roller coaster because there's a lot of volatility because your bet size is all over the place. But you tend to make a lot of small bets and a small number of big bets. So in the short run, those small number of big bets really will affect how you do. And that's why good card counters can run bad for a solid month if they hit a bad run of luck. But then again, they can do really well in a month too. So yeah, so if you are a risk-averse person and can't stand the volatility, then you should not be a card counter. You should take up some other form of advantage play.
Something a lot less panic-inducing.
Yep.
Love it. So our next one is a big thank you for doing what you do. Do you have any bet selection and money management advice for Baccarat?
First of all, when it comes to Baccarat, my advice is stick to the banker and player bets only, in particular the banker. Stay away from the tie, the pairs, and any other side bet in the game. If you just remember one thing about Baccarat, it should be this: banker and player only. Okay. After that, there is no magic money management system that's going to help you in Baccarat or any other game. The house advantage is the house advantage, and the more you play, the more your ratio of losses to a total amount bet is going to approach that house advantage. So when it comes to money management, I would just do whatever is fun for you. You might, in terms of comps, you might I would recommend slow playing the game. Like you don't need to play every single hand. Maybe try to bet more when the floor is watching, things like that. So that is my quick advice on Baccarat.
Awesome. Always love it. Our next question comes from Pete. I play a game here in Australia called Keno Redraw. Can't find any information online about the odds or the payback percentage. Do you have any info or advice?
Nope, never even heard of it. But I'm writing it down.
Redraw.
If you want to send me the rules through my website, by all means, go ahead. I'm always looking for new games to analyze.
Awesome. So Redraw, Redraw. Okay, so our next one is from Source Keen. What's the easiest way to get around Vegas? Uber, buses, trains. I love that. I wish we had trains. Is it too far to walk from downtown to the northern end of the Strip? Don't do that. That would get you in serious trouble. If you think
it'd be fine.
No.
Well, I mean, I hate to say this, but I think a man would be okay. A woman might get bothered.
I was dealing downtown and I had a couple walk from the Strip to downtown and they thought everything would be okay. It was during the day and they got mugged. So I would advise not to do that.
Okay. Your warning well taken. Okay. Vegas is very sprawled out and the public transportation, I would give a D as a grade. Going from downtown to the Strip, you can take the Deuce, which is the brown double-decker buses. Those are at least pretty convenient. They can get fully packed, and you might have to wait to get a ride, and they're kind of slow. But at least it's something. Getting to anywhere else in Vegas besides downtown and the Strip can be complicated with the buses. I would probably just do I would probably just Uber around if you needed to go somewhere else. And yeah, sadly, there's no trains, no subway, no light rail. There is no convenient way to get from the airport to the Strip. Almost, yeah, you would think that public transportation would be an option. And there is a bus stop at the airport, but it doesn't pick up very often. And it's not like it conveniently goes down the Strip. I think it goes, somewhere in the residential areas. So yeah, and furthermore, if you plan to go to places that are off the Strip, I would rent a car. Rental cars are pretty affordable in Vegas, comparatively speaking.
Not right now.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, when I went to visit my mother, I wanted to fly and rent a car, but the number of rental cars available out of the Long Beach airport was 0.
Yeah.
And when I went to Alaska earlier this summer, I looked into renting a car. There was one rental car available in the whole city of Juneau, and it was like $500 a day for a minivan.
Yeah. Yeah, right here, it's after COVID, it started getting worse. I had Anthony Curtis on my show a couple months back, and we were talking about this scenario. Mm-hmm. It's so bad that he actually had to buy a used car because renting a car was more expensive.
I could picture that. Once when on a different trip to Alaska, I flew into Anchorage, and the cost to rent a car for a week was comparable to that of buying a used car.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
Also, too, we also have the monorail, but the monorail is only on the Las Vegas Strip. It goes from Sahara to MGM. It's good if you don't want to walk that. It's always further. Like, people think that it's a short distance, and they'll come here and they'll walk, and they don't realize like how far it is. Also, too, if you are going to walk, make sure you have water, because again, it's a desert and it's really hot. So got to have water. Monorail, I think it's like $10 to $15 to ride it. And then if you do the double-decker bus that you were talking about, that's only a couple dollars. Uber, it's expensive. It's $20 to $50 depending on where you're going. And unfortunately, most of the Uber people are focused on the Strip or downtown. So if you are anywhere outside of the Strip or downtown and you're looking for actually, it's a taxi that I'm talking about, not Uber. Taxis stay generally on the Strip and downtown. And if you're anywhere in the area past that, you basically can't get a taxi. You would have to Uber.
Yeah, that's all good advice. I would say that I think you overstated the cost of the monorail. I think it's more like $7.
Well, I think it's cheaper for us because we're
right.
local.
It is cheaper for us. I think it's just $1 for us.
No, it's not. I had to pay $10, and I was mad about that.
I don't want to look it up during the show, but maybe
right?
the gallery can look this up and tell us. But I think it's just $1 or $2 for locals, but you do have to show a Nevada ID, and you can only buy, I think, 2 tickets.
Oh, you can? Okay.
It used to be you could buy as many as you wanted, but I think people were reselling them to non-locals, so they stopped.
Oh, okay. So our next question comes from Kat. When I watch people play blackjack, they will draw to a 5 or 6 card 16. At what point should you quit and hope the dealer busts?
Okay. Here's my advice. The only hand that I would deviate from basic strategy on is a 16 against a 10. That is the most borderline hand in blackjack, and you see it a lot. So here's my advice there. Once you get to 3 or more cards and it's a 16 against the 10, then just stand. And you might ask why. It's because if you have a 3-card 16, then the average card in that 16 is going to be 5 1/3. So you've already taken out 3 small cards on average. It might just be 2 from that deck. So there's less likely that you're going to get a small card to help that 16. And you might say, Mike, what difference does 1 or 2 cards make to a whole 6-deck shoe? And it doesn't make much difference, but a 16 against a 10 is so borderline that it does make the difference. So there you go. If your 16 and against the 10 is 3 cards or more, then stand.
Always good.
And with anything else, don't worry about the number of cards. Just follow the basic strategy.
Our next question comes from Affinity. Is there a consistent winning roulette bet?
No.
There is. Don't play.
Can we go to some Wizard of Vegas questions before I forget?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Let me go there. I think I lost that page. Why don't you ask me another peanut gallery question while I go there?
Okay. This is from Eddie. I grew up playing blackjack and implementing basic strategy, and I got taken by 3 casinos recently on the roulette table and want to know if there's any strategy involved with the game. Thanks.
Okay.
So, is there such a thing as roulette strategy?
No.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say about roulette is look for a wheel with the good rules, which in most cases is going to be looking for a single 0 wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that what numbers you bet on doesn't really matter.
No, the strategy is trying to get the lowest house edge you possibly can. A 3-0 roulette game will be 7.69%, and then a 1-0 roulette game will be 2.7%. So you want to do as close to 0 as possible. If you are looking for a single 0 roulette game, sorry, I love this topic. If you are looking for a single 0 roulette game, you can actually get that down lower to 1.35%. If you're looking for a single game that offers a La Partage principle, which is if you have your money on any of the even money bets and a 0 rolls, you get half of that money back. However, if it has the in prison rule, then this counters that effect and the house edge goes up. So you do not want in prison, you want La Partage, and that will get you a lower house edge down to 1.35%.
Okay, let me add to that a little bit. First of all, to find a game with either one of these rules in the U.S., you're going to be looking at least $100 minimum.
Yeah.
So I don't devote a lot of time to this topic because that's going to be out of the budget of most people. The number of roulette tables that I have seen or heard of in the United States that have the La Partage, otherwise known as the imprisonment rule, is 0. So this is another thing that I don't put a great deal of emphasis on.
We have a few here in Las Vegas.
Oh, really? Can you name one?
I cannot because I do not have my website up and I'm not looking at it. But before COVID, so this was before COVID, mind you, we did we scanned and scouted all of the casinos here in Las Vegas, and we wrote down all of the tables that they have and what rules they had. So for roulette, when it had a single 0, we would ask them if they had the La Partage principle or the in prison principle. So we wrote that down on our website, and we have that in a graph on an article on our website, vegas-aces.com.
Well, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you. I claim that nobody in Vegas has La Partage and hasn't for decades. What I think that you mean is that there are many casinos that have the rule where if you make an even money bet and the ball lands in 0, then you get half back. That's how they do it here.
With a single 0, and it cuts it all the way down to 1.35%. I had this conversation with several supervisors about this, where I actually went and asked them these questions, and there was 2 or 3 that did have it here in Las Vegas. I could look it up real quick if you want.
Okay, you go. Yeah, why don't you look it up? Okay. And meanwhile, I will just address some Wizard of Vegas questions.
That sounds good. Okay, cool.
Okay, here we go. All right, so Odious Gambit asks a good question. He says that the MGM sports betting app has a promotion where if you bet on the first player to score a touchdown and it loses, then you get a free bet for basically the same thing, for another similar bet on the first player to score a touchdown. So as he correctly mentions, the house edge on these types of prop bets tends to be rather high. The first player to accomplish something where there's a lot of different options. He mentions a 40% house edge, which I think is too high. I would put it at more like a 25% house advantage. So that said, if we, despite that big house advantage, this is still a generous opportunity. So I show that if you bet on a player that where it pays 10 to 1 on any particular player to score the first touchdown, I figure the probability of winning is about 6.8%. And after doing all the math, I show that you still have a 38.5% player advantage on this opportunity, given the fact that you get basically 2 chances to win instead of 1. And yes, I am considering the rule that if you win on the second chance, you don't get your original bet back. But yeah, I highly recommend doing this. And let me just show you some returns at some other pays. If it pays 5 to 1, then the return goes down to 29.7%. If it pays 3 to 1, then it goes down to 21%. So I think that looking for someone that pays about 5 to 1 to 10 to 1 is the sweet spot where that's balancing return and minimizing volatility. So very good question there. Let me get to the right page here. So Gilmer asks, what are your thoughts on blockchain technology and how it applies to online gaming? So I could talk about this for a long time, but as much as I think that Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies are a fad and very strongly overvalued, I think that there is a role for them. It's an easy way to move money back and forth to internet casinos. I use it personally for that purpose. So I think that especially for US players, it's a great way to fund an account at an internet casino, because my interpretation of the laws is that it's against the law for US banks to facilitate moving money to an internet casino that's offshore. So cryptocurrency, I think, is a great way to get around that. Okay, and finally, Odious Gambit asks another question about BetMGM. He asks about a promotion where if you make any sports bet of $10 or more, you easily get back a $5 to bet with, and I assume that this $5 is like a free bet. So this is a good value too. The expected loss on a $10 bet against the spread in the NFL is about 48 cents. And assuming that you have a 50-50 chance of winning your $5 free bet, that's worth $2.50. So this has a expected win of $2. So it's not a whole lot, but nevertheless it's a good value. And I believe in seizing anything with a player advantage wherever you can find it. So that catches me up on the Wizard of Vegas questions. So let's go back to the peanut gallery and hear what Heather has found out about the alleged games with the imprisonment rule in Las Vegas.
Okay, so I have gone through the survey and I found several casinos that do have it. So the first one is Aria. They have a single zero, it's one table only, single zero roulette, and lot Partage principle is available, and there's no in prison. So that's the first one, is Aria. The second one is Bellagio, and Bellagio has 4 tables. 3 tables in the high limit area, 1 table in the normal area. All 4 tables have single zero. Lot Partage is available, and prison is not available. They also have neighbor side bets. The next one is Mandalay Bay. Mandalay Bay, this is 2 tables in the high limit, so 100 each. La Partage is available. There is also, let's see, at MGM Grand, there is 1 table, $50. I think it's outside the high limit. Single zero. La Partage is available. In prison is not available. There's also one in the high limit area where La Partage is available, and that's single zero. And then the next one, nope, no La Partage on that one. Okay, so next is P. Let's see here. That would be the Palms. So the Palms has 2 tables, both $100 in the high limit area. La Partage is available, and prison is not. And then let's see what the other ones are. No La Partage, no La Partage. This one is MGM again. So MGM in the high limit, they have 1 table where you can request La Partage. So no La Partage is normal, but you can request La Partage, and that will be available to some players upon request.
So to sum this up, can you name any casino in Las Vegas that has the imprisonment rule?
You didn't ask for that. I just spent all my time looking for La Partage. I'd have to go and search through each one of them over again. Do you want me to do that?
I think that we basically agree.
And Cosmopolitan has it.
All right.
Cosmopolitan has 1 in the high limit area.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say that I don't call the La Partage rule La Partage. I call it halfback. I like to revert to English wherever I can. And I think that most players are not familiar with the term La Partage. It means sharing in French. And I think the reason they call it that is, let's say you bet on red and the ball lands in 0. So they will take your bet and you will basically share it. They will say, here's half back to you, and we get half. We are sharing your bet.
And that principle lowers the house edge to 1.35%.
Yes, indeed it does. So that rule can be found at many of the high limit tables, in many of the high-end casinos like the ones that you just read.
Well, at least now they know what the real name of it is.
Okay, so I think that our point of departure is I very, very firmly claim the number of casinos in the United States that has the imprisonment rule is 0. And you seem to think if you believe otherwise, I'm all, ears as to a specific casino name.
Okay, but I just want to point out, when we did start this, you said La Partage and not in prison. So I just searched for La Partage. I did not search for in prison.
Okay. It's possible that I got confused with the terminology, and it's because I really do not like the term La Partage. Okay. But I think we've beaten this topic to death, and I also see that we're out of time.
Oh, we are? Wow, that went fast.
Yeah.
When can we see you next time?
Let me get out my calendar here underneath this pile of puzzles.
And if you guys have a question we didn't get to, please join us on the next one and ask your question then. Again, remember, the earlier you ask, the more likely it is that you will get your question answered. Wow, that's a lot.
And then there are more in my bin here. Wow,
that is a lot.
So my calendar is underneath this pile somewhere, so let me dig it out. How about... So October 7th is G2E.
Okay.
I probably should keep myself free for that.
Okay.
For those who don't know what that is, it's the big gaming show here in Las Vegas. I'm probably not going to go on that day, but I don't want to, I'd like to keep the option open. Okay. So how about October 14th?
Sounds good. Let's do October 14th. And that would be 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I know you can Google it and find a converter and everything if you need a converter. But yeah. Great. Well, it was good seeing you again.
Nice to see you too, Heather.
Totally.
And thanks, audience, for coming. I apologize that we didn't get to too many questions today due to my puzzle show. But please come back next time. And as I always say, your chances of getting a question answered are better if you show up early and keep it nice and short. And I like questions that are unusual, that don't get asked all the time, and something that I think the general audience will appreciate, not something that is so specific that only you would care about.
Always good advice. Well, we will see you guys again at the next bat time and the next bat channel.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, audience. Thanks again. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.